The fallout from the blaze continues. Emmerdale is at the earlier time of 6:45 tonight, when Rakesh is racked with guilt about the mill fire. Now, the latest with the ITV Lunchtime News.
Boris bombshell, he backs out of the Tory leadership race.
Having consulted colleagues and in view of the circumstances in Parliament, I have concluded that person cannot be me.
He led the Brexit campaign but won't seek to succeed the PM he defeated over Europe. His closest campaign colleague also stuns. Michael Gove declares he will stand. In the high drama and division, it leaves the Home Secretary the favourite.
My pitch is very simple. I'm Theresa May and I think I'm the best person to be Prime Minister of this country.
The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, holds station, but a challenge is expected within hours. It's been a day redefining political drama. We'll hear what the voters think and we'll be across every twist and turn here at Westminster.
Also on the programme, the young heart patients put at risk at Bristol Hospital called for major improvements. Plus, the Brits battling it out for Wimbledon's success.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Alistair Stewart in Westminster and Charlene White in the studio.
Good afternoon from Westminster as the race to become the UK's next Prime Minister is blown wide open. Boris Johnson, the early favourite, declares that he won't stand. Michael Gove, who stood by him as they campaigned together to take Britain out of Europe, says he will. He claimed Boris Johnson simply couldn't provide the leadership for the task ahead, saying he, Gove, would provide unity and change. Well, among a raft of other hopefuls, it was the confident cry of Theresa May, the Home Secretary, that rang clearest. A Remainer, backed by Leave-supporting Cabinet colleague Chris Grayling, she said, "I'm Theresa May, and I'm the best person to be Prime Minister." And the bookies make her the current favourite. Our political correspondent Romilly Weeks on a dramatic day of developments for the Conservative Party.
Another day of high drama, but for Boris Johnson, it wasn't supposed to work out like this.
Will this harm your campaign, Mr Johnson?
His campaign not just harmed, but blown apart. The front-runner for the Tory leadership race making this shock announcement at what was meant to be his big launch.
Let us seize this chance and make this our moment to stand tall in the world. That is the agenda for the next Prime Minister of this country. But I must tell you, my friends, you who have waited faithfully for the punchline of this speech, that having consulted colleagues and in view of the circumstances in Parliament, I have concluded that person cannot be me.
Shock amongst MPs and supporters in the room. So what did for Boris Johnson's hopes? Well, Michael Gove, his one-time ally turned assassin, certainly didn't help. The man who was at his side throughout the referendum campaign and promised he didn't want to be leader, today had a dramatic change of heart, releasing a statement saying, "I have come reluctantly to the conclusion that Boris cannot provide the leadership or build the team for the task ahead. I've therefore decided to put my name forward for the leadership. I want there to be an open and positive debate about the path the country will now take." The Gove-Johnson musical chairs has left Theresa May sitting pretty. She launched her campaign today with no surprises, just a simple promise.
No, I'm not a showy politician. I don't tour the television studios. I don't gossip about people over lunch. I don't go drinking in Parliament's bars. I don't often wear my heart on my sleeve. I just get on with the job in front of me.
And she boiled it down to this.
My pitch is very simple. I'm Theresa May and I think I'm the best person to be Prime Minister of this country.
As for the other runners, the Energy Minister Andrea Leadsom, former Defence Secretary Liam Fox and the Work and Pensions Secretary Stephen Crabb have all confirmed that they are standing. But the Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt and Education Secretary Nicky Morgan have decided not to add their names to the race. And the one-time favourite, the man who led the country to leave the European Union, has bowed out. and some MPs can scarcely believe it.
All I know is that a guy with a very strong track record of delivery in London, who could have utilised that experience and that energy to deliver for the people of Great Britain as a whole, has taken himself out of the competition. And I'm massively, massively saddened about that.
I'd like to think there was just a shambles in the Labour Party. It obviously applies as across the political divide, but no.
On that, I would agree.
But it'll be exciting for the next couple of weeks, I'm sure.
You're right, thank you.
Boris, you feel betrayed?
Boris Johnson, a politician who loved the centre stage, left by the back door. The referendum and its aftermath is claiming a lot of scalps. Romilly Weeks, ITV News.
And I'm joined live now by the former Chief Whip and International Development Secretary, Tory MP Andrew Mitchell. You were for Brexit, you were for Boris. Where are you now?
Well, I was an inner, actually, and for Boris. And it's all very good theatre, this, but it's not the election for the presidency of the Oxford Union. It's about who the next British Prime Minister is going to be on what is probably the most difficult wicket any British Prime Minister has faced since 1940. So what we have to look at is where people stand on the three critical issues that are before us. The new British Prime Minister has got to negotiate the best possible deal on Europe. I think it would be extremely difficult, but not impossible, for a non-Brexiteer to do that deal. But on the face of it, it will need to be someone who was in favour of Brexit who does that negotiation. We've got to continue the economic reforms that David Cameron and George Osborne have invested so much effort in, and we've all as a country invested so much effort in. And we've got to pursue the one nation progressive social agenda that Boris set out so eloquently in his concession speech this morning. And
how do you feel about Michael Gove now?
Well, those are the three issues.
I've got that. How do you feel about Michael Gove, though?
Well, I'm surprised at what he has
Is that one of those
done.
classic understatements?
I'm surprised at what he has done. He's an incredibly talented guy, and he is a Brexiteer. But he has been telling all of us for the last 5 years that he doesn't want to do it, and he doesn't think he's got it in him to do it. So his conversion on the road to Damascus has come pretty late.
When you look at Theresa May, and you heard me, you were standing just there when I did the bongs and I did the top lead-in, that the bookies say Theresa May, the head count in the Times suggests that Theresa May, don't repeat your three criteria, we all heard them. Can she do it?
Well, she's had a very good morning in this theatre that has emerged.
Does that imply it's going to get tougher?
Well, I think the key point, though, is to look at these issues. It's not that all the candidates, all five of them, are extremely able people. The question is, what is their answer, in my view, to those three questions?
All right, so more questions for her. Thank you very much for finding time for us, Andrew Mitchell.
Thank you.
Well, whether you are a May fan, and Mr Mitchell is yet perhaps to make his own mind up, or a Gove fan, and his view on that was pretty clear, or a fan of any of the other candidates, the ultimate say on who will lead the Conservative Party will lie with the Conservative Party members right across the country. Let's cross live now to our correspondent Damon Green, who's in Cheshire this lunchtime in the market town of Sandbach. Damon, differing opinions on who is right for the job where you are?
Absolutely. I mean, you could ask three people and get four different opinions. This is East Cheshire. This is a Conservative Party heartland. It's a prosperous part of the world, very, very safe Conservative country. But it's members of the party here who will be making that decision, who will decide who the next leader of the party is and who, in effect, the next Prime Minister is. And some of those members are with me now. Martin, you are just 19 years old. Whoever is the leader of the party will be your leader for a long time. Who do you favour in this?
Well, I think at this moment in time, we are very early on in the process, and I think we do need to be provided with a lot more information before we can actually move forward to make an informed decision. Certainly a lot of the members out there. Obviously, I've met Theresa May, I've campaigned with her. I think she's a fantastic, not only fantastic campaigner, but she served really well as Home Secretary for the past 6 years. I'd like to see her move on into that position of leadership. She has coped really well with the duties that have been imposed upon her for the past 6 years. And I think she'd be more than competent to do it. I mean, obviously, this contest is not, it's fluid. You know, Boris Johnson left the race about an hour ago. So who knows what the next day is going to bring.
But for you, Theresa May, but there's lots of differing opinions here, of course. Mike is an admirer, possibly, of Michael Gove. And what do you think he brings to the race? What could he add as a leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, Michael wasn't on my side in the referendum. But the one thing that he did do was communicate the opinions of the Brexit supporters in a way that wasn't emotional. The party is going to need a negotiator. Michael's a good negotiator in order to get our way out of the European Union. The party also needs a good communicator. We've got another election to fight in 2020.
And that could be his time.
That will be his time. And we also needs somebody that can unify.
Just very quickly then go to Jonathan, who's going to say some of the other candidates. They're not just the only names here. Just very quickly, who might be the other names and why might they be important?
I think it's really difficult. We've just had a huge change in the voting landscape this morning with Boris Johnson bowing out of the leadership race. I think that what people need to do, and especially members need to be doing now, is looking very carefully at which person is going to be the right person to bring it together. Granted, we're fragmented, politically on both sides, but we really need someone who's actually got those skills to do it.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, they've got 5 or 6 weeks to decide exactly who they're going to put forward. The members here will be making a very important decision.
Damon, thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me live now here at Westminster is the Leader of the House of Commons, Chris Grayling, an active campaigner to leave Europe, which you can't say of Theresa May, and you stood next to her and supported her campaign this morning. What swung you behind Theresa?
So I did indeed, and I think the reason for that is this. We're electing a Prime Minister. These are big times for our country. We're no longer Remainers and Leavers, we're all Conservative ministers. To me, it's the best person for the job. It's the person who's going to be best placed to negotiate, the best person who's going to be best placed to shape our future relationships, not just with the European Union, but around the world as we seek out new opportunities.
But you were standing there when you heard me talking to Andrew Mitchell, who listed his criteria for judging whether someone was up to Prime Minister, and one was being able to negotiate on behalf of what the British people have said. Could Theresa's heart be in it, or will she make an Exeter Foreign Secretary to go and do the job?
Well, Theresa is no Europhile and never has been, and she has got a strong track record in international negotiations. She's the person who got Abu Qatada back to Jordan. She's negotiated a number of complicated international agreements. So I think she's a very well-placed person to do the job. And the thing that's important to me is we are electing a Prime Minister. We're not electing a Leader of the Opposition. No. Somebody who does this job has got to be able to step into the shoes of the Prime Minister next month. But if she were to, understand that completely, if she were to win, you'd be electing a former Home Secretary on whose watch immigration was not brought down to the tens of thousands, but rocketed off to the hundreds of thousands. That's a big dark mark against her career. That's the whole point is, firstly, that you can't reduce net migration in the European Union because it's illegal to do so. And secondly, we have just passed the first Conservative Immigration Act, the first time we've been able to take action ourselves, not in coalition. I believe that'll make a difference.
Will it go to 2 rounds, 3 rounds, or will she get it on the first?
Well, I think we'll see what happens. It's up for everyone to articulate their vision to the party, to win support. What matters, though, to my mind, is we have consistent, experienced leadership. This is a challenging time for our country. Sure. There is a potentially bright future out there. We need the right leadership to get through it.
Chris Grayling, good of you to find time for us.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, the bookmakers, as I said, have odds on Theresa May as one of the favourites to win. If she were to become Prime Minister, she would, of course, be the first woman to do so since one Margaret Thatcher. Now, at the start of Theresa May's career, 6 years ago, I spent the day with her and was given unprecedented behind-the-scenes access to the Home Secretary. What does the office say about Theresa May when you walk in? Because at the moment, I mean, it's quite Spartan.
Minimalist, I think, is the word you're looking for, Alistair.
And you can see how my day back in 2010 with Theresa May shaped up on our website, itv.com/news. The fight to be the next Prime Minister is only half of the story here at Westminster. This afternoon, another leadership contest is expected to be triggered within the Labour Party. The former Shadow Business Secretary, Maria Eagle, is thought to have the support of enough MPs to mount a challenge against Jeremy Corbyn. This morning, Mr Corbyn attempted to go about his work as usual, but as Nick Wallace explains, he couldn't avoid questions about his own future.
Morning, everybody.
He's lost the support of most of his MPs, most of his party's grandees and his own deputy leader.
Sorry.
But this morning, he was on the front foot.
Say what you like about me, I don't consider myself a hypocrite. When I look in the mirror, it is less for sartorial elegance than to examine what's in my own eye before pointing out the specks in others. I urge others in politics to do the same.
Jeremy Corbyn was supposed to be talking about an investigation into alleged anti-Jewish sentiment in his party, which he did.
Our Jewish friends are no more responsible for the actions of Israel or the Netanyahu government than our Muslim friends are for those various self-styled Islamic states or organisations.
Even if Mr Corbyn wasn't intending to equate Israel with a terrorist group, some people will think he was, raising yet more questions about his competence.
Are you going to stand for the leadership?
I'll be saying something later today.
Which is why all eyes are now on Angela Eagle, one of Jeremy Corbyn's former shadow cabinet ministers and the woman who deputised for him at Prime Minister's Questions. She's expected to declare her formal candidacy for the Labour leadership this afternoon.
I think Angela will be an excellent leader of the opposition. She's strong, compassionate, she listens to people, and I think she'll turn us into a force to be reckoned with.
In order to achieve that, Angela Eagle has to get the support of 51 Labour MPs and MEPs, almost a foregone conclusion in the current climate. Labour's National Executive Committee would then decide how long the nominations window will remain open for any other potential candidates. But it will be ordinary members who get the deciding vote, which is one of the reasons why Mr Corbyn remains so confident.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Jeremy Corbyn won the Labour leadership promising a new style of politics. Less than a year on, it looks like he's back to where he started. Nick Wallace, ITV News.
Well, while Nick Wallace was reporting there, Carl Dillon was on his telephone and has literally just hung up with breaking news.
Yeah, so we were expecting Angela Eagle to declare for the leadership today. That looks like it's not going to happen today, but I've just spoken to a source very close to her who says she will still stand. She will still challenge Jeremy Corbyn for the leadership of the Labour Party. There had been speculation that Owen Smith might also stand and is taking soundings. Really, what Labour people who want to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn need, though, is one unity candidate. At the moment, Angela Eagle thinks that's her.
And in one sentence, literally, because you know time is against us, how is Mr Corbyn today? All this talk about facing up to it, calling it a day,
I was
a tough time.
at an event with him today, and he's still talking about his mandate. His people say he's relaxed about this. He's still in the running.
All right, Carl Dillon, thank you very much indeed. And that is it from me for now, but I wouldn't bank on anything. I'll be back later. For now, Charlene in the studio.
Thanks very much, Alistair. The parents of children who died on a cardiac ward in Bristol have dismissed a report into the hospital's failing as a cover-up and a whitewash. NHS England has admitted that major changes are needed after the review found evidence of understaffing and poor care at the Bristol Royal Hospital. Our correspondent Rupert Evelyn reports.
Luke Jenkins died after heart surgery from which he was expected to make a full recovery. Like many, his parents feared wrongdoing. Today, their complaints are confirmed in writing.
The operation went well, we were told. The aftercare was atrocious. And from what I understand, that's the same throughout the families who have been affected. This Ward 32 has just been a nightmare.
Twice, Jack Casey's parents were warned he was going to die. A patient at the Bristol Children's Hospital. He suffers with brain damage, unable to do many things expected of a 7-year-old. Despite the review revealing failings, his family are still fighting for the truth.
What our family knows that happened, that has not been portrayed in my report at all.
And you're not alone, are you?
No, and I'm not alone. And there is many families which were after us, and unfortunately in a lot, worse situation than us as well.
Treatment here has now been exposed by families and a review of their care. It found that the ward was under strain and children put at risk by low staffing levels, poor care and a serious failing in governance.
The level of nurse staffing and the skills that nurses could bring to bear on the nursing of some really quite ill children were not sufficient. We thought that it was inadequately resourced, and as a result there was a risk of harm.
I'd like to say sorry to all the families where the review shows that our care fell below acceptable standards, where we didn't listen to concerns and complaints properly, and we didn't give them the information they needed.
Children's heart services at the hospital are now rated as good, and the report found broadly in keeping with other centres around the country. The issues raised are not as serious as those found during a public inquiry in 2001, but it is still alarming and is now expected to lead to a national review of paediatric intensive care services. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News, Bristol.
13 people are being held by Turkish police over the attack on Istanbul's main airport, which killed 42 people. 16 raids were carried out against suspected Islamic State members in Istanbul. More than 200 people were also injured at the airport. Tennis now, and it's a big day for British hopefuls at Wimbledon. Former champion Andy Murray plays this afternoon. Johanna Konta is also in action. Heather Watson is out, though. Our sports correspondent Ian Payne is at Wimbledon. So, Ian, quite a busy day for the Brits, isn't it?
Yes, Charlene, it certainly is. We've already had a British winner and a British loser. The British winner is Dan Evans. He's the world number 91. He beat the 30th seed, Alexander Dolgopolov of Ukraine. He did it in straight sets, and now he'll face Roger Federer, the 3rd seed, who, of course, beat Marcus Willis yesterday. The British loser, as you've already mentioned, Heather Watson. She's out. She was involved in an epic battle against the German Annika Beck. Beck winning by 12 games to 10 in the deciding set, a match which lasted almost 3 hours, and it went over 2 days as well, because of course the rain came yesterday. Coming up this afternoon, Andy Murray is in action. He is on centre court. He'll be playing the second match on centre court against Yen-Soon Liu. It's a match he should win. And Johanna Konta is in action again against the Canadian Eugenie Bouchard.
Okay, Ian, thank you. That's it from us in the studio. Back to Alistair in Westminster.
Charlene, thanks. Let's recap on a day of high drama in the race to become the next Prime Minister. Boris Johnson has backed out of the leadership race. Instead, Michael Gove, the man who stood by him as they campaigned together to take Britain out of Europe, says he will stand. And Theresa May has also put herself forward for the job. Our deputy political editor, Chris Shipp, joins me live. No clever questions. Where are we?
You know, Alistair, I'm running out of words to do justice to the week that we've just seen. I mean, extraordinary doesn't quite do it. Unprecedented comes close, but it's still not quite there. How else do you explain what happened this morning? I'm on my way to Theresa May's leadership pitch. I get an email from Michael Gove's office saying, yes, last night I was Boris Johnson's campaign manager. Today I'm telling you he's not up to the job and I'm going to challenge for the leadership. Apparently he didn't tell Boris Johnson. There's no text, no email, no phone call before he told the rest of us. MPs afterwards were absolutely livid. One said to me, this was catastrophically stupid. What does it do for Michael Gove's leadership prospects? You can only say right now that it looks like he's poisoned the well from which he drinks, and we'll have to see whether he can succeed.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. That is it this lunchtime. The ITV Evening News will be back slightly earlier this evening, just before 6:15. But for now, from Chris, from me, and from all of us here, very good afternoon to you.